I've worked at the hospital for about 5 years now. I see people at their absolute worst and help people find their lives again. No, I'm not a doctor, I'm a social worker. I mainly work out of the emergency room. Most of the time it's blood and gore. Other times, though, it's pure mystery and utter sadness. One rainy spring night, a child was sent by helicopter from a rural town. The child was around 12 months old and had not been breathing for over 20 minutes. Emergency crews continued to try to give measures to help save this child's life. After over an hour of work, the child passed away. That's where I come in. I received a call from the nurse in charge of the patient. Hey, Kaylee, I've got a kid down here that just expired. I'm not sure I believe the parent's story. Could you come down and see what you think? Most of the time, when I deal with suspected abuse, I talk with the family and try to determine whether a call needs to be made to the abuse hotline. I've done this so many times that I don't really bat an eye at situations anymore. But this one was different. I got to the room where a lifeless body lay on the bed along with the two parents and three siblings. The siblings ranged in age from 12 to 9. They all had dark black hair that was pulled back into neat braids. They wore pink dresses and crisp white tennis shoes. All three of them stood beside the bed with their hands behind their back and eyes staring at the floor. Mom and Dad were also at the bedside, stoic, absolutely no emotion. I come in my usual fashion and introduce myself to them. No one makes eye contact with me. No one seems to breathe. After moments of silence, Dad looked up to ask me why I was there. I explained that I needed to talk with them about what happened that night. Mom took the other three girls out of the room. As they exited, they looked more like a military regiment than children. Dad proceeded to tell me what happened. Well, Tommy was our foster son. We've had him since the day he was born. We've loved him and he had As they exited, they looked more like a military regiment than children. Dad proceeded to tell me what happened. Well, Tommy was our foster son. We've had him since the day he was born. We've loved him and he's been a part of our family for over a year. We were close to being able to adopt him. Anyway, you want to know what happened. My family and I were at an amusement park today. Tommy had such a great time. We got home around 6 p.m., which is when Tommy usually takes a nap. My wife took Tommy into his crib and laid him down. She went to take a shower and the girls prepared for bed. Tommy and our two youngest girls share a room together. We have a small house and just don't have the room right now. Tommy usually wakes up around 10 p.m. for a bottle. He hasn't developed as quickly as the other kids and needs the extra nutrients. He was still asleep when the girls went into the room at 9 p.m., so I didn't disturb him. My wife and I sat down on the couch to relax and drink our tea. We accidentally fell asleep. When we woke up, it was 2 a.m. We didn't hear Tommy and got concerned. When we went into the bedroom, Tommy was still quiet. I started to get concerned and picked him up. When I picked him up, he didn't move and wasn't breathing. I took him out in the hallway and saw that he was blue around his lips. My wife called 911 and then we came here. I don't know what happened. We accidentally fell asleep. We never meant for any of this to happen. Mr. Thomas, I'm here to find out the facts. I'm not here to decide whether you did anything wrong. Losing a child is never easy and I am here to help. We adopted our girls as a sibling group a couple of years ago. We were so happy when Tommy came to us because I had a boy. I love my girls, but it was exciting to have a boy. Mr. Thomas started to sob. Why don't you go out and sit with your wife and girls while I talk with the nurse? I went to find the nurse to see what information she thought didn't match up. Without saying anything, she took me back into the room with the child and shut the door. She brought me closer to the table and turned the child so that I could see his back. The child's back was covered in bruises. I had never seen anything this bad before. The nurse felt like the parents weren't being truthful. Someone wasn't being truthful. I just didn't know who it was yet. The nurse turned the child back over. He was beautiful, a head full of blonde curls. What happened to him? I headed back to the family waiting area to talk with the parents again. When I entered, the daughters sat perfectly in a row with their legs crossed and hands in their laps. Their parents were not in the room. They stared at the television that was playing old cartoons up in the corner. Are you girls doing okay? I'm sure this must be hard for you. The oldest brought her stare from the television back to me. No, it needed to be done. I suddenly felt goosebumps run down my spine. What do you mean? He needed to die. He wouldn't have been a good fit for the family. My parents only need the three of us and no one else. Sweetie, it's really late at night and I'm sure you're tired. Are you telling me you know what happened to Tommy? Yes, we killed him. My phone buzzed with a text message from the nurse stating that the parents were talking with the doctor about the events of the night. I responded to have her call the police and keep the parents out of the family waiting room so that I could finish interviewing the children. What happened to Tommy? Every night my mom and dad paid more attention to Tommy than to us. Before he came to our house, they did anything we wanted them to. Our first parents died. We wanted new parents. So I decided that we would get rid of Tommy so that our parents would pay attention to us again. My mom sometimes takes sleeping pills at night because she has trouble sleeping. When she got home, she started to make her and my dad a cup of tea while she was in the shower. While my dad was in his room, I put 3 of her sleeping pills in their tea. I knew this would give us enough time after they fell asleep to get rid of Tommy. Once I knew my parents were asleep, I came into my sister's room and we all helped. Katie held the pillow over Tommy's face so that his screaming wouldn't wake up my parents. When we were with our first parents, I watched my first dad kill a bird once by hitting it with a big rock on its back, so that's what I did. I took a big rock from outside and hit Tommy on the back until he quit moving. My heart was racing by the time she quit telling her story. I was speechless. Just then, I heard a knock at the door of the waiting room. It was the police. I asked the officers to stay with the children while I talked with another officer. The social worker was called that works with children in foster care and that are adopted. As the worker walked through the door, she said, "Claire killed him, didn't she?" The worker proceeded to tell me that Claire had a disorder that made her incapable of forming bonds with caregivers. Claire had been going to counseling to work through these behaviors, and it came to the point where she didn't want anyone beside her and her sisters to have her parents' attention. Her behavior had gotten worse, though. She had started killing small animals, and now she killed a child. Claire stared at me as I walked back toward the elevators. I stepped in and locked gaze with her. With her eyes burning into mine, she smiled as the doors came to a close. I have never been more terrified of a child. I have never had a case like this since, and I hope I never do.